Hello and welcome to the Easy Allies podcast. I'm your moderator, Brandon Jones. Joining me this week, panelist Michael Damiani.
What's up?
My bold and beautiful co-moderator, Mr. Daniel Bloodworth.
Hello.
And making this all happen by starting the Zoom call in Slack, Ian Hink.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, gentlemen. We are here to discuss some of the biggest headlines in video games, but before we do that, we have to answer for all of our mistakes from the last podcast. Ian, please begin corrections music.
Boop.
Friendships in Mortal Kombat 11 were added as a free update to all versions of Mortal Kombat 11 and aren't part of the Aftermath content pack. The Assassin's Creed guy that said they had to do side quests 5 days before it launched clarified his tweet a little bit after the articles were posted. He specified that he can't confirm if there was a kid involved, only that that's what he was told at the time. It's also important to note he didn't mean all side quests. The only plausible content that could be added in such a short time would be the collectible feathers and Templar scattered around the map, which is still pretty good for 5 days' work, but not as crazy as was implied in some articles. Dead by Daylight lore contains the Entity. Do you know about the Entity, Daniel Bloodworth or Ian Hank?
Just after reading this.
A deity that pulls people, survivors, and killers in places Haddonfield from Halloween, etc., across different places, times, and IPs. How convenient. This is why Cheryl Heather and Pyramid Head can show up in the same trial along with Laurie Strode from Halloween and Quentin Smith from A Nightmare on Elm Street and Ash from Evil Dead.
Legit, I love stuff like that. Like,
The Entity,
just
done.
BS narrative. Yeah, just the Entity.
Entity.
Like, sure.
Entity?
Yeah.
NPD reports, and this is just my first NPD episode. NPD reports by fiscal month, not calendar month. Didn't mention that specifically. That's why RE3 appears in both March and April's reports. NPD March is always 5 weeks, and this year tracked from March 2nd to April 5th, which is the reason why RE3 charted. Sino Alice is only new in the US, been around in Japan since 2017. Not only did the Formula E racer Apt have to pay, he also got fired by Audi's Formula E team and will not be competing for them when the real-life races get underway. Every driver had a face cam with a clear view of their face, except for Apt. This topic was divided fans and drivers, with some drivers leaving Twitch completely because of it. And The Witcher 3 did not sell over 50 million copies, the series did. Witcher 3 is more than half of that, but I said Witcher 3 did. And that would be impressive, which is why all of you were so impressed. And also, we got a comment on YouTube from Subliminal Man. Hey, I'm a developer on Button City that was in the Wholesome Direct. Just wanted to say it was always a dream of mine when I was growing up to have game trailers check out a game I was working on. And now that dream is fulfilled with the Easy Allies. Thank you so much. Also, thank you for talking about all of the games showcased in the Wholesome Direct. And shout out to the Wholesome Games community and staff who put it together. They're all wonderful people. Stay awesome and love and respect. End corrections music, please.
Boop.
As quickly as possible, let's play Gaming Gladiators. This is where, in my thirst for blood, this is where I want video game characters to battle to the death, then of course be revived, because that's what video game characters do. We have 2 matches. Number 1, I'm actually, Ian, curious what you think about this more than anyone. Simon Belmont versus the Chosen Undead from Triphide. Simon Belmont versus the Chosen Undead. And I would guess this would be classic, like Simon 1 and 2. Castlevania 1 and 2,
Yeah.
Simon Belmont. He didn't specify.
I gotta go Chosen Undead. A lot of mobility and ability to move in 3 dimensions.
Yeah, right,
Gonna really.
Simon does too.
Really,
He's had issues.
Yeah, dodge roll, really gonna help.
Anyone want to refute that? Damiani, where are you putting your bet?
I'm not feeling familiar enough with Chosen Dead, so I'm gonna trust Ian on this.
Dark Souls player character.
Yeah, just a random player character, yeah.
Oh, that's its name? Oh, I just never knew
Yeah,
that.
the Chosen
My
Undead.
bad.
Monster Hunters Rathalos versus Final Fantasy's Behemoth. Which giant fantasy creature can dominate the other, and which ally will be in charge of cleaning up the club after the carnage that ensues? I didn't write down this name at all. Giant fail for me as a moderator.
Wow.
It's a behemoth that can summon Meteor when it dies, and Rathalos has like no chance. But if it's a behemoth,
So it's a lose-lose. They both go down.
But if a behemoth doesn't, Rathalos is, I think Rathalos has a really good chance of winning. Just depends.
I'm surprised to hear you say that. Yeah.
But that's the contingency? Is that
I'd
spell?
side with Behemoth on that. That's a big, muscular beast. And it's very ferocious.
Like the one in Final Fantasy Remake, like the Type 0 prototype one. Like I think Rathalos could take on that one.
That's like baby behemoth.
Yeah, like a behemoth.
That was not ready
But like
yet.
the real big ones, nah. I think Rathalos is unfortunately gonna like not be able to do a thing against that.
And this should be a later
We're talking
competitor.
real behemoth.
Because this is gonna mess up the arena, right? This is gonna do a lot of damage, this fight.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the arena's destroyed.
Good to know.
Take it outside.
Good to know. Gentlemen, this was a week in the world. This was a week that happened. This was 7 days that have passed since the last podcast. Lots happened in the world, and there's a lot of things that we have addressed in terms of a lot of the protests that are happening in the United States and other parts of the world. And I am deciding to bring it up here on the podcast because this is affecting the video game industry all over the place in lots of different ways. I started this by talking about specifically the PlayStation 5 Future of Gaming event postponed indefinitely. We still, as of the recording of this podcast, do not know when this is actually going to be.
They kind of just said later.
They haven't given any date. I think they just don't want to do it anytime too soon. I think it was more than just it possibly being today, which was the George Floyd Memorial services were held in Minnesota, and then they're also going to be held in like Houston and other places at a later date. So I think they just don't want to get in the way of any of this. It's not not the appropriate time for this for to be celebrating video games right now. So no, they didn't make the right call. They're making the right call by not giving it another date and letting this have its time, letting this the topic of racial injustice and police brutality have its time to be discussed, so that actual change can come from this and it not just be lip service where everyone feels good at the end and then we forget about it for a few years till something else comes up.
Well said, yeah.
And these events were so fast, just to put it in comparison, that was announced on May 29th, canceled on June 1st. So that was a very quick kind of permutation of all of the events and all of the just people around the world, recording videos and all the news, trying to keep up with everything. According to Sony's Jim Ryan from GameIndustry.biz, we're going to launch PS5 this holiday, and we are going to launch globally. So they are on track in terms of, I don't know necessarily when this event needs to happen, how that really affects like the console. It's just Sony's in an interesting position. There's a lot of things that have been postponed because of these events that were already postponed, and a lot of people are frustrated. Although, Damian, you make an excellent point where this is just not, whether you delay this to a later date, this is just probably not the week to do stuff.
Well, the nice thing with a digital event is like, I don't know if there are going to be live elements or not, but my assumption is that it's a recorded direct video, so you just have to wait a little longer. It's going to be the same presentation.
Yeah.
And they're not like, if you're thinking about it on the company's standpoint, like they didn't have to cancel a venue. They didn't have to do any of that logistical stuff. Like all they have to do is say, we're going to do it on a different time because it's just not the right time.
Yeah.
And it's just the right call. There's no real downside other than just having to wait a little longer, which is not a big deal.
There was a little bit of a downside. It wasn't without cost. They were running ads on television promoting the event. So those ad buys were, they hit that cost. I'm sure they're like, that's fine to them. They eat a cost.
Yeah.
Also, if there were any marketing plans like for pre-order stuff to go up, communicating with basically this all just amounts to like potentially all the negative thing that could come out of this is potentially leaks. Because other third parties were informed about their plans, like, hey, pre-order pages go up here, potentially, either for games or for the hardware, who knows? And if it's getting pushed back, if one of those people forgets even just one part of a website that didn't do it, some of that information might go out there ahead of time, which is, honestly, I think Sony at this point will probably be like, so be it, that's fine. Like, it's not the end of the world. People are still probably going to be excited whenever we actually present this and stuff like that. I don't think, in the grand scheme of things, though, I do think it wasn't, while there might be a small financial cost they had to eat for this, it was something they had, like, probably no issue doing.
Yeah.
And I don't want to bring up any of this news suggesting that this is unfortunate or that, this week has had an impact necessarily because of how it's going to affect video games, obviously. But something that I can't help thinking about in looking at this list is I'm sure there's a lot of things that I'm not either not recalling or, didn't see specifically pop up, that a lot of times when you have protests like this, when you have, pain that is this widespread, when you have so many people speaking out, you do kind of want to get things canceled. You do kind of want everybody to kind of put stuff aside and really focus on what you're talking about. And I can't remember the last time this has affected obviously the beginning of the summer is a very, a time when there are a lot of things to be affected. But is there anything about this that like feels different from potentially other times something like this would have affected announcements of this caliber?
I mean, I've been trying to think back, and so many things have led to this moment and to why this moment was kind of the boiling over point. And I mean, in a lot of senses, it's far, far too late. But it's good that it's happening at all. And like in our lifetime, like the funny thing is video games, are only about as old as I am, like, or a little older. Like the NES came out, I think the year I was born, 85, right? 86, maybe 84.
And yeah, 84 or 85 in the US, yeah.
Right. And like trying to think my knowledge of history, like if Rodney King was around, times where press conferences would have been happening, I'm certain they would have been canceled as well, but like you said, like they should be. Like it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing to move these things, to cancel these things, and it makes sense. Yeah, I don't know.
Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo all tweeted out in support of the Black community, along with a lot of other people, but it was interesting. And there's a lot of people I saw from headlines that people were writing of pointing out who, like, we reached out to this company, they did not have a statement, they have not said something publicly. I didn't want to go through, that entire list, but I wanted to point out people that did. And again, this list is growing. There's things I just, hastily added on today. EA, Ubisoft, Activision, Blizzard, Square Enix, Riot, WB, Bungie, Bethesda, and Capcom. The Pokemon Company and Lego also, and obviously Nickelodeon did a thing. Like there's a lot of stuff outside of gaming, but those were the names, gaming wise, all just saying something. And it was interesting seeing messaging, a kind of a leapfrog effect of some company saying something and then people kind of taking that language and sharing it. From that perspective, was that. I know it can feel potentially frustrating because it might just seem like a popularity contest where everyone feels that they need to get out and say something and be involved. But at the same time, I was moved. It was interesting to see this happen from so many of these different companies. Did this feel big?
Well, it's funny to me because like Ubisoft's message, and maybe it's just because I have a lack of knowledge of Ubisoft history, I don't know, felt more genuine than Activision's. Especially in the wake of like the way that they reacted to Hong Kong stuff, like 100,000 years ago, 6 months ago, 4 months ago, whenever that was. Time has lost all meaning, but yeah. So like, and I saw some responses to the Activision, especially where it's like, yeah, all right, guys, like, And I mean, like, it's interesting because we're a company and we made a statement. And so I have to, because we meant it genuinely and we're being real, and trying our best. And like, so one hopes that whoever at least is in charge of pushing to say, hey, we, Ubisoft, should say something, actually believes what they're putting out there. Whether or not every member of a huge corporation does kind of, I guess, doesn't matter, unless they start affecting real change, and then we can say, oh yeah, hey, you're backing it up with things that you're doing. But yeah, I mean, it's not bad, I guess. Long story short.
Yeah, I guess the concern is like people seeing it and thinking it's just lip service, and that people are just kind of piling in because it's a feel-good PR moment, and will it be any more than just that? Right. For the companies that are doing donations, and especially the ones that are like actually matching employee donations, either at 1-to-1 or even some doubling it or more, those ones I can understand them taking a little bit more time. People are like, they're rightfully so asking why it may take certain companies so long to speak up about it. When it comes to financial stuff in a company, there probably to be some approvals. I don't know how easy it is. I mean, we're different. We're not like every other company out there. We pretty quickly could probably determine, hey, we're going to do a charity drive, and that money's going right to George Floyd Memorial Fund. Versus a giant company, it's like, we need to double check everything to make sure we're allowed, like, we can get this done. So those companies, I'm fine with them taking more time. If they put out there, we are going to put our money where our mouth is. For those people who just like tweeted images and stuff, it's something. It's raising awareness. It's getting people to talk about it, so it's not completely useless. But at the same time, a lot of these companies that have a lot of money, have a lot of power, they obviously can do a lot more. All of these companies are like hundreds of times bigger than Easy Allies, maybe thousands of times bigger than Easy Allies, and like the amount of change they could affect if they wanted to do that. And my hope is that some of these companies don't just like stop there when this all ends. That they take a look at some things, because it leads to a larger discussion about why we're in this place in the first place, and like why this industry in particular is like many other industries is deeply affected by this, and that there's a long way still to go for this. And this is like the first step basically in the process, and it'll be interesting to see what they do from here. But on the surface level, I am glad they're like, any company that abstained from this, that's like the big red flag. It's like, those companies start with that like bad and stuff. And I know you called out Nintendo. They did take a while to say something, but it seems like behind the scenes they were already donating and matching employee donations. But for some reason they chose not to speak up until like a little bit later than like Sony and Microsoft. So I mean, that's the thing. It's just, the public perception, the optics about it, how long it takes you to say something. People are more inclined to believe you're doing it because it's safer to do and looks good from a PR perspective versus you're being genuine about it.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. It's funny, the society we live in, where it's like a gut reaction is seen as more genuine, whereas, and I'm not defending anyone, or I'm not saying this in reference to anything really, but it's like a measured, thought out response to something can seem less genuine than just a knee-jerk reaction. And like sometimes you don't want you want the measured reaction sometimes. Yeah, and like you said, it's like not saying anything is where you start to raise an eyebrow. And then it's funny because you hear stories about people who, again, not referencing anything, but just like, people who are activists and donate and do all this stuff and never talk about it. And then it's like, you find out way later, it's like, oh, I guess they were a really good person. Like, they just didn't talk about it.
Right.
It's just like another thing that I'm sure exists. I don't know.
And I imagine there's a lot of people that work at these companies that might potentially not agree with every word that was written by the company that they work for. This is one specific division in each of these companies that is doing this. And I don't mean at all to suggest that like, oh, because Sony tweeted this out, therefore all of this, suddenly has meaning. But in these events, especially now as things are slowing down, this is, might not be a topic that's brought up in the next DCI's podcast. I try to figure out, media-wise, what the industry I potentially do understand, where is that high watermark? Like how can we actually measure the impact that it had, how much everybody was kind of forced to listen and forced to speak out. I thought that was interesting, and a lot of stuff got delayed as well. CD Projekt Red delayed Night City Wire live stream. That's happening on June 25th. Which is interesting with Sony, that just a lot of people just were like, 3 weeks, man, we'll just forget about it. We'll do it like way later. And Sony still hasn't, I wonder what the internal debate is, trying to figure out exactly when that's going to happen. If they're literally trying to have it as early as possible, just like that day. I wonder how much lead time we're going to get.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're in a situation where there's no telling how long, all of this will last. And I just don't think they want to be, seen as insensitive and just like, all right, everybody, stay home today and watch our presentation, just.
Right. It is to an extent, because it'll take as long as it needs to take, right? And it's like, that's great. And yeah, it's the right decision, I think, not to put a date on something, because it's presumptuous to say like, oh, this will all blow over in 3 weeks. It's like, this is a massively important movement and moment, and like assuming when it'll blow over is kind of silly.
CD Projekt Red strikes me as a company that can be flexible, that can maybe kind of they've always kind of done things the way that they want to do them. These next companies, I think, are a little less movable. EA postponed the reveal of Madden NFL 21. which I think is an interesting decision on behalf of that company. Just in terms, again, of the, how much these things they just happen at a very specific time in the year. And potentially a lot of the, a lot of the people that are expecting these things, this is maybe one or two games that they play. And so like this was the moment when they realized, oh, this has, bled over into this industry. And the next Call of Duty seasons were delayed for Modern Warfare, Warzone, and mobile. So just basically all across Call of Duty, that game took a pause. Fortnite Season 3 was delayed a second time to June 17th. It was previously set for May 1st and delayed with no reason. And then right before it's finally going to happen. GTA Online and Red Dead Online and NBA 2K went offline for 2 hours today, Thursday, when we're recording this podcast. And I think this is worth talking about. Infinity Ward is taking steps to make it more difficult to have racist names in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. There are ways around it. There are ways to goof around with characters and just kind of obviously be offensive in ways that, their algorithm or, the automatic sensors they have set up are not picking up. And this is kind of a double-edged sword because this is a great gesture, but it's something where people are like, this took this for you finally to realize this is something so obviously
Why was
a
it
problem.
not already hard?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is going to have a trickle-down effect and a lot of people are going to just try to get in line behind Call of Duty, or if this is a sign of how pathetic our progress has been because it took this long for this to happen. Is it possible to be happy and sad about that at the same time, or how do we feel?
I keep responding first. Someone else can talk.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, sure, moderation filters can be hard sometimes. Sometimes, like trying to figure out like every, way people will manipulate numbers and symbols and things. But I would think for something as large as Call of Duty, like, it wouldn't take more than a few months to get that down. So it is strange, but it also helps for people to, report that stuff when you see it, if you can. And it sounds like they're expanding tools to do that, so I think that's actually helpful as well. It's just like sometimes when you have something that has, millions of players playing it, then, the more tools that you can to put eyes on things, for the small team that has to deal with everything. I think that's a big step forward because that can go beyond whatever filters they think of. It's like if you see something that's suspect, then even if it doesn't fit their algorithms, then they can adjust their algorithms. So.
Yeah, and I think like it's easy to have your reaction be like it took this for this to happen, and it's like there comes a point where if we do want to see systemic change, everything has to change, and that includes dumb little things like making it harder to make racist names in Call of Duty, and it's like as long as it happens, if it starts happening, good. And shaming someone for learning a lesson far too late is not productive, really. It's just like, I'm glad you're learning this. I wish you learned it 20 years ago, but I'm glad you're learning it now, and I'm glad we can move forward, And so like any tiny little thing is good. Any march towards equality, progress, even if it's as silly as names in Call of Duty,
Yeah,
I think is good.
I mean, people have tried different ways, I think, in the past. They just haven't worked. I mean, the biggest comparison coming up now in the larger movement with all the protests going on is that they tried the most peaceful form before. Colin Kaepernick taking a knee at football games and how much ire that drew. It's like one of the most peaceful things. It's taking a knee during the national anthem, and everyone tried to bury him, dismiss it, attacked him, and tried to make it about the victim, villainize him. Sorry, and but he is a victim as well of racial injustice with that. So sometimes it does take something a little bit more, like a big event like this. Sometimes it's the wake up call that things need, and it's needed to affect change. And as you said, Ian, if it affects everything down to the smallest thing, if that's what it takes, then so be it. It's just unfortunate to see that's what it for the outlook for the future. It's I'd really like to hope that like, we don't have to keep doing this, but as history shows, it kind of is the way. It's kind of always going to be the way that has to happen, unfortunately. And the best thing I'd like to see come out of this, especially when it comes to the video game industry in particular, is I really would like to see the change that happens from this is not just like obviously improve the user experience, especially when they're playing games like online games with other people. You know, and it's not just like racist, anything that like homophobic comics, toxic masculinity shit, like anything like that goes through that people have to go through that makes them uncomfortable to play with other players. That fear, because it's real. They have to deal with that crap. That becomes like almost a thing of the past, or that it's like so. It's so the rules are enforced that like you don't have to worry. Like if someone does that, they're going to be cracked down on immediately. So like they're the minority now. Like that's the atypical experience is where we need to get for that. But also from the industry side, I really like to see more faces that represent the industry. I'd like to see more black faces, like black men, black women, other minorities, like they're being the face of either companies, the spokespeople for companies at their events. It would just be nice to see that. What was it? We talked about Ubisoft earlier when they were doing their E3 press conferences. Aisha Tyler being like the host of those things was like, yes, like I'm going to keep supporting this because they're putting her out there and she's really good. It's like and they stuck with her too. I mean, but at the same time, you also see like people who ever I don't know if they're gonna stay in the industry or not, but Kirk Scott just left Nintendo recently, the face of the Nindies program, also in the Directs and stuff. But after 5 years, stepped down from Nintendo. I hope he stays in the industry because he was great for that, and it was really nice to see that. It's just we got to start from there was a whole stories about people it's hard to recruit or hire people when they aren't applying and stuff. It starts even at a lower level, education level and stuff. We gotta start there. We gotta fix a lot of stuff, and then hopefully we'll see that affect change in our industry where we see a lot more diversity. And companies just need to maybe try a little harder when they're looking at go an extra mile to search for somebody rather than I've already got all these applicants here. I'm just gonna filter them and stuff. That I think that's one of the major things that needs to happen.
Yeah, well put.
Something you said in there too. I'd like to highlight literal faces in video games too, where it's ad campaigns of games with a create a character, where the default is still just some white dude. I feel like did Andromeda kind of shift it up in their ad campaigns? They would skip back and forth between the man.
Oh, I don't know about the ads.
Was Andromeda or Mass Effect
3?
3 or one of the two?
One of them.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm misremembering. But I would love an ad campaign for a create a character game like that, where it's not a white dude.
For sure. Yeah, you're talking about Mass Effect Andromeda, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably. Maybe they did it, but I would guess that they just went because they have their canon.
I know they showed a male and a female, but I don't remember if they're both white. Just little things.
Yeah. You might be remembering, and maybe not. Maybe you do remember an ad, but my review, I was playing as a black woman in that game.
I think the character I made for Bossman was. Well, yeah, I remember your character for sure.
That's a really good point, Ian. Thank you for bringing that up. That really helps though. Seeing the more people can see of that, the more it normalizes it, the more marginalized groups can look up to somebody. But it also helps just as much when the white people, the predominant group, also showcase these icons who are just straight white guys basically all the time. That's why I really like good characters and stuff, but everyone makes fun of me sometimes for liking Legend of Korra and liking Korra and stuff, but that character I always push that character and back in game trailers and reviews and stuff. It's because representation. It's a minority character, a minority bisexual character who I look up to. I was I want to idolize this. I want some people to see a white guy idolizing a minority character and stuff and being I will look up to this. And I think there needs to be a little bit more of that too. So it goes with representation in the games as well, but also people looking up to them and not saying my idols are this and stuff. It helps, it helps with seeing that like the majority voice speaking out and like speaking out for these minority voices and characters and stuff, it really helps, because the more, as I said, the more you're exposed to this, the more people get it becomes normal and stuff, and you see people who maybe aren't as exposed to this, they like have those knee-jerk reaction stuff. It's like, as you're saying, Ian, like not necessarily like shaming people, but like just they need to be exposed to it, like learn, like get used to the world. This is how it is. It's not just like one way. And the sooner you get, understand that and are exposed and are used to it, the better person you can be, I think, and the better society is for it. But media does gateway a lot of that stuff. They do control a lot of the representation for that. And remember what we went through with when the Black Panther came out? All those videos of people saying like, what was my favorite video? Like when the guys were saying like, this is what it feels like to be white in America. Basically, when they looked at like the poster of T'Challa, they were like, this is great. Like we need more of this. It's like also sad to see that like that's not a normal experience. That like it's a special experience. It's like, no, that should be more normalized for crying out loud.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what, Damian, it just makes me happy. I'm seeing so many of these big communities, these big games being affected by this, because not only is there going to be representation, people in that community are going to feel seen, they're going to feel like the things that are affecting them are also affecting this industry that they love, but potentially people that would, I'm just hearing a lot of people that are frustrated that this is entering the gaming conversation at all, who are like, I see gaming for escapism, and it's like, there's really nowhere to escape to anymore. I'm looking at all of these games, like these seems to be the big games, the big earners, the big things that people tune into, and like everyone is talking about it. It is everywhere. This also seems like the type of headline that has news updates absolutely every single second. Again, we're recording this the night of Thursday, June 4th. If you got up tomorrow, something else happened, one of these things got announced, Sony dropped a date on us, like we don't know about that after the fact, but I just tried to, and a lot of this stuff I looked up and read articles about yesterday. So again, this has been a wild 7 days, even less than that it's really kind of been the thing everybody was talking about.
Well, I think we've changed our schedule alone like 6 times this week.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah, we delayed the thing I teased last week in the podcast. Right now to next week, but we might move it again.
Ian, I don't mind teasing stuff. Getting another week of teases.
We'll just tease it over and over again. But Brandon, what you said, that word escapism, and that comes up for our company too, because we don't mention politics. And I don't see this as a political issue. Obviously, it's a humanitarian issue. It's nonpartisan. It's just like human lives. But escapism and the theory that we as a journalism, entertainment, whatever company should be apolitical. It's sort of the same mentality where it's like the more games change. Because, like, escapism is great. I love it. But if you're escaping to a world that isn't representative of the real world, where the default is always the white guy, that will color your perceptions of reality in some way, even in minuscule ways. And I think that if our games start reflecting a more inclusive world, we can escape to a world that is... why not better than our own,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that was, really interesting last year at GDC, and then I did a review of Falcon Age, and I hope I don't get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the creator is from Sri Lanka, and just how that kind of, augmented that story and kind of, showed some of their perspective and the history that they've had to deal with in that country, and so I think part of it too comes down to, maximizing what's happening in the indie scene as more places in the world and people from those places are able to create games, and seeing, there's just like a whole other spectrum of different stories that can be told and things that we haven't seen 1,000 times.
Yeah, and it to me, it's more interesting. Like,
of course,
if you boiled down the brass tacks of a lot of stories, film, television, gaming, it's like the same crap over and over again.
I
And
mean,
it's like,
even
give
it-
me
you
a
know,
perspective that I haven't heard already.
I used to do a ton of theater, man. I loved to, as a kid, I loved playing dress up. I love art, I love, film and television, everything. When I play RPGs, I make my own character. I just always make just goofy looking Jones clone, and like, it's really tough for me to break outside of a mold, and really like what if, that's what's great about tabletop. It's like, what if I really put my shoes in somebody that is completely polar opposite from me?
Be someone who's slightly shorter.
Yeah.
Really outside the
Yeah.
box.
Blonde hair, maybe. That's the ticket.
That's the.
Thank you for these sentiments. Thank you, everybody. I saw some comments of people last week that were like, are they going to talk about what's going on right now? And it's like, this was last Thursday, like so much changed in just a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Whether this becomes a prominent part of the podcast last week, we had a successful fundraiser that we did this week. There's just a lot of people in our community that have done a lot of work in, spreading the words that we want to get out there, but also educating us and informing us of a lot of the things that are happening. So if I missed anything, let me know. We'll cover it in corrections.
Well,
Yes.
there is one thing I'd like to just touch on and hear your guys' thoughts on as well, and to kind of get ahead of the comment maybe, but like, we're aware that all 8 of us are white.
There's 4
in
people on
Easy
this
Allies.
podcast. What other 8? What other? Who else are you talking about?
You only see. I'm seeing 8. I'm seeing double 8 participants.
Sometimes we have 5,
Yeah.
but today we just have 4.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that does not escape our view. I mean, it is just, I mean, systemically, like, back down through the line, like, it's how it wound up. We're the people who are still around at Defy when everyone got fired. But like, say what you will about that, like, I'm sure many privileged things went into that being the case, of those being the people left. But it's something we're aware of. It's something that I would like us to address in the future. I mean, we can't like openly just discuss our plans for that right now off the cuff, probably in a podcast. But like, it's something we're aware of, and it's something that we are, I don't know,
For
we're
sure.
open to talking about and listening about and acknowledging.
I think it might be the main reason I would be reserved in bringing this up on the podcast at all is just the idea that somebody would see the timestamp or see like a tweet from somebody else and be like, oh, and click, and just again the 4 boxes of white dudes come up, and you're like,
Right.
click, like cool. I'll move on to the next thing, at which I completely understand. That's what our
I've seen-
timestamps
yeah,
are
there-
available. You can jump right back.
Tweets about
Yeah,
that,
let me find out what stuff got delayed, what stuff got canceled, what stuff got postponed. But then when the 4 white guys start talking about racial injustice, I'm gonna get that content elsewhere. It was just relevant in everything in my life for last week, and so I really appreciate. We talked about that a good long while. That felt very good. Emotionally, on the completely other end of the spectrum, Sega announced the Game Gear Micro. Shall we?
It's too damn micro.
Shall we talk?
It's
shall we
so
talk
small.
About the Game Gear
It's
Micro?
too damn micro.
What a week.
Yeah. So this thing's only coming out in Japan. Like, we should start there so far.
Is
Hasn't been
it for
announced
sure?
Do you
or
believe
they
that?
just have not
It
announced
has
yet?
has not been announced
What
for
is-
the West.
Damiani,
It's only
what
been
is
announced
this?
for Japan so far.
What is this thing?
So I'll read it. So this is from the Polygon's article on this. So I'm going to be quoting him from the Sega is reviving its 1999 handheld, the Game Gear. They're making a retro micro version of it that's going to be coming out in Japan only right now on October 6th for 4,980 yen, which is roughly about $46. And when they say micro, this thing is small because it is 80 millimeters wide, or about 3.15 inches, and the screen is only 1.15 inches diagonally. That's about a third, according to Polygon, it's a third the size of the original Game Gear's LCD screen, and much tinier than the 2-inch screen on a Game Boy Micro. There will be 4 variations, color variations. There's a black version that will come with Sonic the Hedgehog, Puyo Puyo 2, Outrun, and Royal Stone. A light blue version that comes with Sonic and Tails, Gunstar Heroes, Sylvan Tale, and Baku Baku Animal. A yellow version with Shining Force Gaiden 1 and 2, Shining Force Gaiden Final Conflict, and Nazu Puyo Arl no Ro. And a red version that comes with Megami Tensei Gaiden, Last Bible Special, the GG Shinobi, and Columns. Some of these games never came out in America, so like again, it's being the emulator is being developed by M2. So that's good news for it. It's just really small and tiny, and who's this for? I guess like it's
Yeah,
a little
what is it
weird.
for?
Put it on your keychain. I mean, I don't know what you.
Yeah.
But it looks too. I mean, unless it's for like kids, but the games that they've picked aren't kids games.
They have some
Like, it
RPGs
looks
on
too-
there.
Right,
RPGs.
and Sonic 2 is hard. As a kid, you can't beat that little weird. Is that Sonic 2 or 1 with the weird like chomping mouth at the bottom of that hill? Couldn't beat it.
Oh, the Game Gear version. I think that's
the Game Gear
I
version.
forget which
Different
one,
game,
but I
yeah.
remember that boss. It sucked.
That was
It
impossible.
was really annoying. Yes.
Turns out you just have to like let it
yeah
kill itself with
the
like falling
balls or
ceiling
whatever.
particles.
Yeah.
Did not figure that one out as a 6-year-old or whatever. But yeah, the buttons look unusable. I don't know.
What did you see? The I think I posted it right before this. The weird like old school magnifying glass.
Well,
Oh yeah.
that's one way to help the buttons being unusable, Bloodworth. Because if you want, you can get a better look at that tiny screen with the gigantic magnifying glass that the Game Gear also had, and it partially covers the buttons that you're trying to press to play the game.
Yeah, it looks like it covers the start button a little bit. Yeah, it's nuts.
It charges over USB, but it can also
Yeah.
run on 2 AAA batteries.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Like the batteries are back. It's like
There's also a 27,255 yen bundle, roughly $250, of all 4 consoles and a mini version of the magnifying glass.
oh my gosh.
God.
Get a tiny version of that.
It's
Comes
like
with the magnifying glass.
so there's no video out for this basically.
No way. No.
There's no video out like this, like the Genesis
And
Mini, and all
no,
the other
and no
mini
announcement
systems.
for U.S. market at all.
Yeah, so I thought maybe it was like, oh, it's a mini system. Okay, they have to cut down on costs, but at least you could be able to hook it up to like a TV or something. And it's like I don't see any of that, so
Nope.
it's meant to just be portable. But I just don't know who's really going to get enjoyment from this. It's like this is like the definition of novelty right here.
It seems like a kind of overpriced stocking stuffer.
Yeah.
You know, just like a
Exactly.
novelty gift that you give someone, they mess around with it for 20 minutes and then they forget it exists.
Well, in my the TurboGrafx video I did, like one of the screen filters was for like the old like Neo Geo Mini Turbo Express, whatever it was called, and like even playing that on a screen, I'm like, I'm over this in like 5 minutes.
Does it
There's,
make it
no
like
way.
small?
Well, yeah, it makes it small, and it's got like a weird, visual
Yeah,
effect that's supposed to represent like the dot matrix of it or whatever it was.
Right. The Game Gear was sick though. That was my first console ever. First anything.
The Game Gear was sick. Why wouldn't you want 4 of them?
I was like,
Yeah.
why couldn't they just
Put
make
4 of them together and
the
they'll be
original-
a third the size of the original.
Right?
Hey, that could be a bonus feature they haven't talked about yet. You know, it's a big
Yeah,
surprise.
combine them.
I just don't get why they want to put out the original form factor Game Gear and have it either powered solely by USB with like rechargeable batteries only. Some to keep the cost a little bit down and also not burn through all those
Yeah.
8 batteries back in the day. The joke. Just bring
Yeah.
an original one. This definitely, as you said, Ian, this definitely feels like a stocking stuffer type thing. Like maybe even like it was meant to like a key, if it has a keychain thing. Like it's just something you carry around and like, oh, it looks, see, it works. See, that's cool, but you're never really gonna play it. You know, you're not gonna play it in
Well,
any meaningful way.
I don't want to tell tales out of school, and I don't know if it's still as popular, but I know that phone charms and stuff like mobile phone stuff was big when we were there a few years back in Japan. So maybe that is the angle. Maybe it's like, because I mean that is kind of awesome to have like a keychain or phone charm that is a playable Game Gear. Like that's kind of sick if that's the angle. You know, like I can imagine being like a high schooler and thinking that's rad as hell. So if that is the angle, then sweet, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Are high schoolers really gonna drive the sales on this? Do you think? I mean, this is obviously
We kept the anime
this is-
DVD business afloat when we were in high school.
Right.
So
I mean, I did too, obviously, but this is silly for a reason. I mean, this is I can't stop looking at it, I can't stop reading about it, I can't stop talking about it, and I can't help but think the strangeness is because of that. That obviously it fits all of the criteria that you just said, Ian, but it's also just the goofiest thing and the weirdest decisions. And like, how far do you go with this? You know, like, is there a way to make this sillier? I can't think of anything you could potentially do to these things. Other colors, I guess. I don't know.
It's supposed to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the company.
It only has 4 games on each too. This is such a
trap.
This is not meant to be practical whatsoever.
I want a commercial of a man with a bag full of these things who just keeps like surprise throwing them out at people, and they like hit him in the face, and they're like, no one bends over to pick them up.
Yeah, hand them out for trick or treat.
Yeah.
The other thing that's nuts to me, so I could sort of see myself maybe playing a little bit of Sonic like this, but something that's like Shining Force that's got a lot of text and like unit movement and stuff. Like what?
Well, these aren't the games. If we get this in the U.S., we're probably only getting about half of these things, right? Because a lot of these games, you know, I do not recognize.
And
I actually grabbed it.
Be localized. Yeah.
I grabbed this list from another site, Damiani, and a lot of the titles were different from what I saw. So,
yeah, I saw some different titles too.
No, I mean maybe Polygon was just trying to input like the English version of the titles, maybe, or they just translate themselves. So again, what I was reading was from the Polygon article. So apologies if those don't have official English translations, and that was just their translation of the titles, the Japanese titles. But yeah, my only final thought on this really is that I'm a little bummed out because while I wasn't a Sega person growing up, this is something I did play a bit of Game Gear through various means back in the day, and I would like to revisit some of these games. Especially like the Sonic Game Gears. There's a Mega Man Game Gear game that was like crazy weird. There's like lots of different crazy Game Gear games I played because my brother had one, or a friend of his had one. I would borrow it when they would come over because they weren't interested in it. Like I was
curious what through various means meant.
I mean, they would bring it over and like they wouldn't play with it, so I just like go play in their room with it, like while they were uninterested. I
was like, this is pre-emulator. What are you
No,
doing?
yeah, it was not emulator. If Sega took this seriously, put out a real size Game Gear with like 20 to 30 Game Gear games on it, I would probably buy this in a heartbeat. I mean, this is what I wanted, like with those rumored Game Boy Micro things. Like, if Game Boy Micro was just a tiny thing with 4 games on it, I'd be like, pass, I'm out.
There was that Game Boy mock-up thing that would fit on your phone, you know, and then you'd get the app, and that was... What happened out of that? Was that just like a third-party weird thing, or was that just somebody made that up? Or...
that was a weird rumor, right?
Like
I don't know anything about it.
Thing? Yeah. I'm excited for that Teenage Engineering Playdate thing. I'm very curious about that. It's like a handheld made by Teenage Engineering and the people who made... Oh, God. The people who made Firewatch? I want to say?
Is that the yellow thing with the crank?
Yeah. It's a handheld system with a crank.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I saw a headline that the Doom minigun, it has Doom on it, and you crank the minigun.
Oh, my God.
That's
a no-brainer.
But that's them, and I see thumbs too big to play Game Gear. I see tiny fingers cranking a Doom minigun in black and white, and these are ridiculous. And I might buy it. I don't,
I'm buying Playdate for sure.
It's funny. I played Game Gear more than I played Genesis. I did not own a Genesis for a while, but I picked up the Game Gear probably just because it was cheaper than that system, and I was just like I was so in love with the Game Boy when that first came out. I played that a ton, and still somehow did not play Pokemon Red or Blue. But I gotta wonder. I mean, if these were the games, the GG Shinobi, I'm curious about. But I mean, are we all getting the black version for Sonic the Hedgehog and Outrun and Puyo Puyo, or Gunstar Heroes blue version? I don't know.
Yeah.
Sylvan Tale, what's that? Is that an RPG? Might get a blue version.
Sylvan Tale, what's that? What is that?
What's that Sylvan Tale there? Damiani, what version you getting?
I mean, color-wise, I like the blue one the most, but...
Would you pick out of color rather than games? You wouldn't care what you'd play?
Yeah, because I mean, I'm not want to
make like a necklace out of it?
I'm not taking this seriously for playing the game, so...
Vanity, thy name is Damiani.
Just want
it'd definitely be the black or the blue one for me. I'm curious what Baku Baku Animal is.
Why don't we do a Game Gear Micro group stream? All of us just play a different version of this, and we just talk. We just hang out.
Nobody could see anything.
Yeah. We turn the volume up real loud, though, so you can hear all 4 at the same time. We hold it up close to the mic.
We
the side
zoom
of
a
the couch.
camera in, but it would be so close that if you moved literally at all, you would completely go off frame.
Dude, I remember, Blood, were you there? I remember like doing All Access E3 where it was like the Vita. I think there was some game on the PSP or Vita, and they were like playing it on the couch, and the camera guy was behind, like trying to go off of the PSP.
Oh,
and like the
right.
producers were all pissed because it was really bright and reflecting, and I was like, I don't know what the hell you guys thought this was going to look like.
I remember that.
Bring B-roll, and then they're done. That's it.
Vita was one of
no way.
the roughest systems for us at Game Trailers because we never got like a real capture unit. So it was always this like really painful process of like having to lock down the thing and put a camera over top of it.
I remember
And
that
then
too.
the Vita had all these functions that you couldn't use
Yeah.
because it had motion control and the back touchscreen and stuff. And it was like, well,
Yep.
come on.
Yeah,
Sony,
capturing
why?
Gravity Rush was a fun process for that original review for Vita.
And so, like, not only did the footage look bad technically, but it was like it was played poorly, because all we could do is like go in a room and like try to do something for 30 minutes in an awkward position.
Is there a reason they wouldn't bring this to the States?
Because it was said it's novelty. Maybe they think it won't sell very well here. It
Just the
could
black
just
one?
be. I mean, I think maybe they just don't bring any of it out over here. I mean, they might. I mean, it's not impossible. They might bring it out over here. Who's to say? But I also
Yeah,
want
they
to be
could be
surprised.
holding that announcement like a lot of other things.
I mean, this was like a big 60th. I mean, the only reason I can think they'd announce it for America the same day is because everything that we just talked about in a previous topic, they were like, not a good time. In Japan, maybe, it's different over there for right now, so it's okay to announce it there, or they felt it comfortable announcing it there, and maybe just waiting at a later date here. But, I mean, at the same time, it does seem like they would have held off the announcement period like a few days or something just to like announce it globally if it was going to be a global launch. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, things are weird right now, even with like for all this with the COVID situation. Maybe their plans are being affected by that. I don't know, but who's to say? I would not be shocked if it doesn't hit the U.S.
Remember that like 2-year period in like the mid 2000s or something, after flip phones had gone away and phones kept getting smaller, and so then like Zoolander and like Austin Powers and so like they all had jokes about tiny little phones and like someone swallowed their phone and stuff. It's like that.
We're going back. Who goes smaller? What's the smallest handheld you could have?
I mean, I think this is it. I think this is pretty small.
Oh,
It's like those
Bloodworth, I got it.
things are the smallest things, right?
Oh
You
yeah,
have-
there's some small Tamagotchi.
You got to get one that's a ring that you wear on the top part of your finger that projects the console onto your palm, and then you just play it like this,
Yeah.
like tapping with your 2 fingers, but you have to hold your finger steady, and then it's only the size of a ring. That's smaller.
I watched the pilot of Upload on Amazon because the man has a couple friends on it. Do you see what they do with the phones?
I haven't
in
watched
here.
it.
It's in here. They just extend
Oh.
either hand like that, and it just fills in like the
Oh, okay.
just
Loser.
extends out in space. Yeah, so they can read it. Yeah, I'll tell you this. The Super Nintendo Classic, loved it. The NES Classic, like a lot of the stuff. I was curious about the PlayStation Classic. Didn't fork over cash to go get it. None of them made me chuckle. None of them really made me laugh. None of them I pointed at and giggled.
The pointless attachments for the Genesis Mini were a little funny.
They're so funny.
Well,
The 32X and stuff.
this has a pointless attachment as well. It's
This attachment has a purpose.
It's
but
the
it's
only
also
way to use
pointless.
it.
It's a pointless purpose. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
It's a remarkable thing. I just think it's fascinating. Way to go, Sega. A wonderful time to drop the Game Gear Micro on us.
Yeah, it's so weird you can't be mad at it, kind of.
Yeah.
You're just like, all right.
Yeah, it's like if you buy that and you're upset, that's your own fault.
Yeah. You can't be upset for buying it for yourself. You can't laugh at somebody else buying it. It's tough. Well, emotionally, it'd be interesting to see if this ever comes to the U.S. how it affects us. As if Sega dropping the Game Gear Micro wasn't crazy enough. Konami, y'all remember Konami, right?
Right?
They make lottery machines, right? They make
Right.
Pachinko.
pachinko slot machines.
Heavily invested in technology. This company.
Yeah.
Used to have some award-winning IP. Just dropped a video game on us. No big deal.
But they don't make video games.
Just they apparently make $20 action platformers.
Yeah.
Well, they
that
didn't make
actually
this.
kinda-
Yeah.
That you can just go
They
play
just
on the
published
PC,
it.
California-based
PlayStation 4, Switch, and
developer
Xbox
who
One.
made it. Yeah.
They just
So,
published it. Yeah.
Skelattack is out. You can go get it. It's on PC, PlayStation 4, Switch, and Xbox One. It's on something you probably own if you want to go play video games. $20, and it was from the developers of Epic Loon, which is a $10 game on everything but Switch, PC, PS4, and Xbox. 4-player battle or co-op, old sci-fi vibes from that game. And then they're teasing another game on their official website. But that was it that I could find. Together with your best bat friend, Imber, you'll need to jump, slash, and flap your way through the underworld. It's time for you to stop the humans, save the elder, protect the blue flame, and confront Scully's own life before coming to the Afterveil.
The Afterveil.
What's happening? What's going on? Somebody got
The
some
art
info on
style
this?
looks kind of nice.
It's kind of Undertale-y, it's
Yeah.
kind of
Kind of vibes.
maybe a little Hollow Knight-y. It's
Undertale?
playful.
I don't think as
it's
Hollow
not
Knight for
Undertale.
sure. It's not like Undertale.
Not
at
in the
all.
overall style, just
I
vibes,
don't think it looks like
Right.
Hollow Knight either. It looks
Yeah.
more.
Well, it's got like a hand-drawn-esque
Yeah.
feel, like cartoony.
Versatile and fluid platforming, fun for all ages. Visually rich art style. Be a warrior and a skeleton. This is from the Switch. I really like this description. Fight the humans before they plunder your unlife. Meet a unique cast of friendly monsters, undead, and make friends along the way. Play as an adorable bat named Imber. She's the best. Take your time, look for secrets, even try to speed run. Skelattack is fun for all skill levels and challenge seekers. Extensive checkpoint system of blue flames to practice your jumps! Exclamation point.
Oh, a little nightmare platforming, I see, maybe.
Yeah, it's interesting because the PlayStation blog had some more information saying like there's no game overs in this. So
Oh, really?
yeah, which is I mean that's nice. I mean a lot of games do it. Like usually they either throw you back at a checkpoint or there's like a currency penalty. Like that's more games do that I think more often now. Like that's like unless you play Steel mode or I forget what it's called in Hollow Knight, the one die game over thing. You just lose all your geo in that game. So I appreciate games like that because I think it encourages you more to keep pushing against difficulty. Whereas like game over, go all the way back to this like beginning of game type mentality is a little bit much. I think it's more of an old design. Yeah, I mean this is a game where I might try it out at some point. The platforming stuff, platforming comment usually definitely speak to me. I couldn't help shake. I mean, it is a budget game. It's not a full price game. It is an indie game. It just looked a little, despite it's a skeleton fighting against humans and stuff. When I watched the trailer, I felt it looked a little. The feel I got was a little too generic. Like, and nothing really spoke to me in terms of like this is unique, this is different. It looks like it will be a decent game and be about like maybe an average experience. I might be wrong when I play it, but I think the real surprise to me is that it's like Konami decided to publish this. That this wasn't picked up by somebody else. It was Konami of all companies to put this out.
Right.
So I think that's like why I'm like, whoa, I'm paying more attention to this because Konami is attached to this project. It's like, wait, what? Welcome back, I guess, Konami. What do you got? What else you got for us?
Not something they've talked about a lot. Not a lot of lead up to this.
They
And
shadow dropped it almost.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I hadn't heard of it.
And like you said, it's a budget title. Are we happy for this game? Or do we think this game maybe could have? And again, none of us have played it, but like, do we think this is a sign of a good thing, a sign of a bad thing?
I feel like it's gotten a good amount of buzz from it. For what it is. It may not have stood out without the Konami name behind it because it's just unusual for Konami to be publishing anything, much less a new IP. That's like it feels like a lot of the stuff they have been putting out has been sort of returning to the well of like Bomberman and that sort of thing. So to see something entirely original get the Konami name put to it, even if they didn't make it, that makes people perk up and wonder like, hey, what's going on over there?
Yeah, rough timing. I mean, you can't really be a story right now, but I don't know. The graphic style looks all right. It'd be something I think this is a case where a demo would be helpful too. Maybe like
Yeah.
if you shadow drop a game like this, I think you also drop a demo, because then someone can play it, because they haven't had the lead up or any press to. And I love shadow drops and I love demos, so I don't know. because I'd love to play a demo of this, but I don't know if I want to pay $20. I don't know.
Yeah, and the trailer was like 40 something seconds as well, so
Yeah,
it
not
makes it a little
long.
tricky.
Yeah, for sure.
It's interesting.
Obviously,
and
people are streaming it and stuff now.
I think this could potentially be a good time for this game to pop up. There's just a lot of, as somebody who has been trying to figure bets together over the last, to get all that stuff figured out over the last couple weeks and look at like what's coming out next week. And there's very rarely like, aha, that's the obvious game. There's a lot of ports. There's a lot of games coming out of betas and stuff that we've known about, sequels to IPs, remasters. Re-remasters getting announced. We'll get to that later. But it's just interesting.
So it is a remaster? Sorry, we'll get to it.
This is not, no. But
No, the other one, yeah.
so interesting when I heard about this and I thought it was like, wow, I haven't heard it, I didn't know that was a thing that existed, and then saw later, oh, there's a reason I didn't know that existed, and actually saw some streaming support. I don't know if they were just naturally attracted to it or if that was something that they smartly connected with, some streamers to make that available. So at least some people could check out what was going on with this game. But it seemed to just kind of be there. I didn't necessarily hear anything negative or positive around it, even when searching for more information. It just kind of popped up. So strange for Konami to be involved, strange for them not to potentially botch it, or, it's like at least get it out and shadow drop it instead of like having a bad campaign or like taking way too long or releasing it like, in like October or something. Although I'm sure it's a fun game to play in October. But
Did we have a bet for this? I didn't write one down, by the way.
Oh, for this podcast?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, did you not write down a bet? Because I didn't ask for one beforehand. I wrote down my bet. I'm all set, but we'll get to that later.
Just give us a time to
Whoops.
silently write it down in the moment later.
We'll do it when you do that bet thing later on in the podcast.
Yeah,
Thanks
yeah.
to you. Thank you.
I just realized it.
You win. You win, Ian.
Hey!
Hey, I don't know what you win. You win a transition into the last story, potentially, that we're going to talk about on this podcast. I got Daniel Bloodworth on hand to talk about this, although all of us should be familiar with this company. Dontnod Entertainment opens a new Montreal, Canada studio. This international expansion will allow the company to be closer to its North American players community, representing the studio's main audience, responsible for a handful of video game successes like, of course, Life is Strange, Vampire, which I totally forgot they did, and Remember Me. Dontnod has more than 250 employees in France. Thanks to this new North American entity, the studio will continue to grow, and produce even more immersive, engaging, and innovative video games. Yay!
Yeah. It's good news. I mean, the 250 surprised me. It's a lot of developers over there working.
Didn't feel like 250? You wouldn't have guessed? Didn't feel like 250 based on your experience with Dontnod? You wouldn't have guessed?
I wouldn't have guessed, but I think it's probably because they are working on multiple things, right? So they've got several projects coming up. They've they were doing Vampire and Life is Strange at the same time. So yeah, it's definitely interesting though, and I think particularly because they have been doing so well with North America, and they've been setting those Life is Strange games have been set in North America. I think particularly in the first game there was like a little bit of a disconnect of like, do you not quite understand like American culture in high school and stuff like that? It's like Blackwell Academy is in this like strange limbo of like, is this a private high school or is this a college? Where are we? What are we doing here? So yeah, I think just having more people internally to kind of understand that stuff a little better will help. Just more manpower, more people making those games, particularly if they do want to continue Life is Strange while venturing into new IP.
Dontnod is one of those companies where it's like, I've enjoyed their stuff from afar. Like I played like a few hours of Vampire, a few hours of Life is Strange 1, and I liked them. I didn't finish them, but I respect what they were like going for, and so yeah, I want nothing but good things for these guys. Like, do we know if did they say they're hiring up in Canada, or are they moving people from their?
They're hiring in, yeah.
Okay.
Hiring up, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, they're expanding. That's good stuff.
Yeah, let me see if I can find a little bit more.
It's also so Montreal. That's gonna put them by Eidos Montreal as well. So
yeah.
Right. So I mean, Square Enix. Has ties with Life is Strange, obviously. So like maybe they want to do something more ambitious with that. And besides having that studio there, also like having them have access potentially to that. I mean, that's us talking strictly about Life is Strange, or maybe Square Enix like says, "Hey, we want you to work on a bigger IP or something like that." They do have Deus Ex and Tomb Raider. I know those games are known for their specific genres, but they also have spin-offs, and maybe a Life is Strange style, like that more like adventure narrative game for like set in one of those universes might be something Square Enix is interested in, and them having a studio there could lead to those opportunities. I mean, it would be lead to like bigger things for them, but also don't want them to be shoehorned into like just make games for existing IPs. They seem to excel at doing what they want with their creativity. So I hope they can balance both of those. I think that'll be a good recipe for success for them.
Yeah, Eidos Montreal.
Is Dontnod a subsidiary of anyone, or is it?
No.
No.
Independent.
That's what I was trying to clarify. Like, so Square Enix would just be Life is Strange. It wouldn't be like
right. I forgot that Square Enix had anything to do with that. I wonder if they're going to.
They just published it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, the Eidos Montreal there, they have like some motion capture studios and stuff. So if Life is Strange was involved in this in any way, like they could potentially collaborate there. But at the end of the email I have, the establishment of the studio in the Quebec metropolis will be supported by a brand new project. To fill its ranks, Dontnod will be hiring from Montreal's renowned talent pool, which will naturally diversify the company's culture and consequently its creations. So yeah, all new people, all new project.
Montreal is lovely. I went there once, and it's great.
Sounds like a really nice place. Yeah. I also didn't mean to say there's only Square Enix there. There's plenty of other game studios there. So I mean, it's just like a nice, as you said in that email, good talent pool there for not only hiring but networking, using maybe potentially, you said like motion capture at a facility to do a next gen Life is Strange or something like that. It would be a really good opportunity. I think it's a good move.
It's interesting, Blood. You were surprised at 250. Are you nervous that this company might be getting too big? Is this potentially a telltale situation? Not to draw comparisons between these two companies, because obviously, Life is Strange is similar to maybe some of the stuff that they output. But is this company growing too fast? Is this something that maybe they finally found the franchise that people are really going to fall in love with, that their audience is potentially expecting more things? You've talked to these devs that worked on Life is Strange, and these are definitely types of stories they want to continue to tell. Too much too soon, or is it impossible to tell?
I think it's impossible to tell, but I am a little bit nervous on their behalf, just because Life is Strange is their biggest franchise, and there were mixed receptions to Life is Strange 2. There are people that really love it, like me and Huber, and there are people that think that it's just like it tanked for them. And
interesting.
And then I don't know where it falls sales wise, whether it really
that's what I was going to ask. Yeah, because I had the perception that it didn't succeed over much, so I was kind of surprised by this. Not to cut you off, sorry, Blood. And so that's been their one like really solid hit of a series. And Vampire was interesting but had issues, and Remember Me was very interesting and had issues. And so it's curious to see where they're going without knowing particularly what they're working on at the moment.
Well, we know it'll be interesting, but will it have issues is the question. That's kind of what I'm wondering. They're bringing in all these new people. It's Montreal like, we don't have issues, and they just come in like, oh, they didn't. Go Montreal. So, that's the difference, the Montreal difference.
So, Blood, what you're saying is there's no way of knowing where they're going without knowing the way.
It's happening right now.
He sort of inadvertently quoted Fastball.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That will be the recruitment video music.
Yeah. The road that they walk on is paved in gold.
I didn't want to stop you. I'm sorry.
There we go. Never get old. I don't remember that part.
Also, this week, Terra Battle terminated its service. Aw. I played Terra Battle.
Did you?
It's interesting. When there 2 Terra Battles? I thought Terra Battle either got like a big update or something.
I think so.
Maybe it's just the whole Terra Battle
franchise.
Terra
Battle 1 and 2.
For those that don't know, you might know the name Hironobu Sakaguchi. I got to finally meet Hironobu Sakaguchi because the first Terra Battle was coming out. And he was like, let's play together. I'm like, I don't want to play you in some indie game you're making that I've never played before. All right. He won.
Did you win?
No, I did not. And apparently he's working on an Apple Arcade game, so that's kind of what he's diverting focus to.
Yeah.
But it's always a bummer, obviously, for people to check that out. I also play a lot of mobile games. I feel for you if you're affected by that. Two fun Avengers-related news things. There's a war table happening on June 24th, and then that reaffirmed.
We should explain what that is.
That's a war table. It's your
stream?
No, it's your classic. It's your classic gaming war table. It reaffirmed they're gonna have a September 4th, 2020 release date. This is their direct, an Avengers direct. I don't know. It started with. I always get a little nervous whenever videos start with tweets where they're like, "We heard you." It's like, well, I hope everyone heard everyone. I don't know if that's necessarily something. See, the difference with our company is we check our Twitter account. You're like, oh, it's good to know.
We
All
don't
these
just
tweets,
let-
people are like, "Hey, what the hell happened in that Avengers game?" And like, an interesting question. Let's have a war table. And if that Avengers game doesn't interest you, potentially you want to watch 10 minutes of THQ's Avengers game that was going to be in first person. I have not seen this 10 minutes of footage, but that resurfaced. I wish we got in one of these a week. I just need at least once a month. We got that Prince of Persia game that never came out. I just want some game to look at that I'll never get to play, but at least I get to watch some footage because somebody found it.
The footage it's such an early stage that I feel like it's almost impossible to tell whether it could have been good, but the chances are that it would not have been.
Right, but that's the game that Square Enix is making that comes out in September. I'm talking about the THQ Avengers. You know. Oh, boom!
Oh.
I'm kidding. I'm reviewing that game. A Total War Saga Troy will launch exclusively on Epic on August 13th and is free for a day. So why wouldn't you just? I mean, obviously, there's lots of people who don't like Epic, but it's just great. These free games, on Epic is so interesting. It's one thing, obviously, if it's the same with PSN, it's the same thing with Game Pass. Like a lot of games are like, we missed our window, it's over. A lot of people aren't talking about our game right now. Maybe they'll all jump in, especially multiplayer stuff. Like they'll all jump in. World War II just is free on PlayStation this month for on PlayStation Plus, and Star Wars Battlefront 2 as well. But it's weird to have these new games. I just wonder what the sell was, what the package they put together to
the sell was
attack all
money,
these different
Jones.
companies. Well, of course, but specifically, who stands to gain more than who is what I'm wondering. Are you telling me, Bloodworth, I could just give you? Do you have a price for everything? Is that what you're saying, Blood?
Well, it's
That I
interesting
can just-
because
I can rate you.
for those fans, which I'm not even, I don't even know for sure if Total War has had a lot of presence on Epic yet. You get those fans in the door, and then Epic's gonna start giving people, that game's not gonna be done in a night, right? Like you're gonna play that game for a while, and then they're gonna get more free games the next week because of the way Epic works, and it's definitely an efficient line right there. They're definitely hooking people into the ecosystem, and then eventually they're gonna open that thing enough that they're gonna just buy games there.
Do you have to download them on Epic to actually get, or is it like PlayStation? Because I swear I added DayZ to my account back when that was free, and then I don't have it.
Oh,
So maybe you have
in
to
my
actually
experience, no, you
download it?
I don't think
or-
you'd have to actually download it, no.
Oh, okay. I guess I just false memory then. I guess I just didn't do it.
it's Epic just doesn't. Epic's mean. Epic's cruel.
Yeah.
They're just making it not happen. They're breaking hearts. And I imagine there's a lot of Total War fans that do not like the Epic Game Store and will not be signing up for that. I just think that, again, might not be the way you prefer to get Total War Saga. It's just fascinating for a game like that, for a franchise to adopt. I'm curious to see how that does. Sony says PS4 games submitted after July 13th must be compatible for PS5. So there. Ian, that game you were planning to submit, got to be on PS5. Sorry.
I got some work to do.
Sega announced.
So I just did a search. Sorry.
Do it.
There,
Sega announced that Blood did a search.
there's not any other Total War games that pop up on the Epic Game Store.
Yeah.
Oh, firsty.
They are pulling that audience straight out of Steam.
I just remembered that I bought Total War Warhammer the other day when it was on sale, then forgot I did that.
Oh, nice.
Whoopsies. Or Warhammer 2, whatever. Yeah.
What are you going to do about it?
Play it eventually, I guess.
You probably should.
Play a game? What? No.
Nah.
Just
Uh,
collect them.
Sega's got a lot going on. They announced Fog Gaming,
Yeah.
which will harness the power of arcade machines.
The power of fog.
They're going big over here. They're going small over here. Big arcade machines.
Did they get
small
an actual
portable
announcement out there, or was this just like a report?
Oh, dude, I have no idea what this is.
Is it-
I'm not.
Was
Yeah.
this supposedly was
Fog
their
is big and small.
This supposedly was the big announcement they were teasing. It was like on power with the PS5 or something, or someone was telling me that, and I was confused. I was like,
Yeah, there was a
"Wait,
lot of weird-
How is this? What? No, this is not on the caliber of like an international new console launch. Like, I get, from my understanding, it makes it. I don't even know what it is. Like some cloud access to play arcade gaming to help preserve and stabilize arcade industry over in Japan, and that's great. But like that might be extremely big news there. That is, if that is the announcement that was being touted, that was completely misrepresented. I mean, it's cool, but that's not big news. Like, I don't know. I'm a little
I
weird.
think
about
that
it.
might not be it, but
I'm hoping it's not, and people just jump the gun and assuming it is, because yeah, this and the Game Gear Micro are like, no, neither of these are big enough for this supposed big Sega announcement, which I hope is still true, but we'll see.
Sega wants you to be confused right now, Dummy. They got you in the palm of their hands.
They've got you in a fog, dummy.
Sega operates in some mysterious
working.
ways. I'm still waiting
Yep.
for Sonic Mania 2, the most obvious
go.
sequel that should have existed by
Oh,
now,
yeah.
and I still don't know where that is. It's like, where is that, Sega? Come on, where's
It's in the
Sonic Mania 2?
fog.
It's in the
It's
fog.
in the
It's coming.
fog. Yeah, we
Yeah.
gotta.
It's like the Turbo Graphics. You had those hidden games on there, right?
Right.
You had hidden modes and stuff.
Maybe
It's
we have to get
coming.
all four of the Game Gears and beat all
You
four of the
have
games.
to
and
get
we
them
get the
all
codes.
close together.
Yes, we get the codes, and then
Daisy
you gotta input the
chained
codes. I
by
got it.
headphone jack.
They
Also
each
plugged
show
into USB.
1/4 of a Steam code.
And then when
Right.
you put those into Sonic Mania, it unlocks Sonic Mania 2. I got it.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah. I loved that the announcement I saw for this had to clarify, no, that's not a translation error for the Japanese equivalent of cloud computing. Like,
Right,
they meant
right.
fog, not cloud. Which
I
just
love
thought was
that,
funny.
like fog
Yeah.
computing. Like that's way better. I like that.
Yeah.
Resident
The
Evil
Velvet
3
Fog.
will receive no future updates. Sorry, RE3 fans.
They're too busy.
Yeah.
They're busy with bigger and better
Busy
things.
making
Supposedly.
800 games.
Hey.
Busy making RE8, RE4 remake, Code
make 'em.
Veronica remake.
Go make them.
Go make
Those will
it.
be, yeah, I'm fine
see
with
'em.
that. Destiny 2 Year 4 will be revealed on June 9th. We talked about that Avengers footage, and Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning was accidentally announced. Yay! Oops.
What a name, Re-Reckoning.
Re-reckoning. Yeah,
THQ
I was like,
Nordic is just, they do it all the time. All
Their
their
accidental
remasters
announcements?
are crazy.
Oh, they just remaster things, or they accidentally announce them, or they
No,
accidentally announce
like,
remasters?
like what was it, Darksiders one? Like
Mm-hmm.
they just had all kinds of crazy, weird names for their remasters.
Oh, I see what you mean, but
oh, yeah. Well, it's funny because the Re-reckoning, I was like, okay, is that a sequel? Is that a remake? Is that a remaster? What is that?
Yeah, it's totally a
I
remaster.
guess. Okay.
And that was Kurt Schilling's game, and I guess he didn't pay a lot of people, and now other people are going to make money off the thing that they should have been paid for, and
yeah.
First game trailer stream, if I recall.
Oh, when was it, we called it GT Live or whatever with Miguel and
Yeah,
me in
Miguel and Ryan and yeah.
Was
which
it
I'm
that?
sure still exists on the internet.
Oh, and
I
I watched
should-
it.
I should-
not
I should-
Oh,
long
really?
ago.
Oh, good.
I was like, I should know this answer.
I was
don't
over at
remember if it
Chris's
was-
house.
I forgot
like
if
a
it was
year ago and we
I
watched
know.
it.
Yeah, I thought one of the earliest thing we did was a Vita thing as well.
Yeah, so yeah, the Darksiders 2 Death Initive Edition.
Yes.
Remember?
Okay. Forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me of
Rolls
that. name.
right off the tongue.
Yeah.
I remember. It's time for love and respect.
Love and respect.
Gentle. Wisconsinite has a game for us. Highest platinum percentage game. These percentages were taken from Saturday, May 30th. Guess which game has the highest platinum trophy percentage? Got two options.
Walking Dead season
Oh,
1.
the
Played
two.
it-
Okay,
no,
okay,
it-
gotcha.
And you just disqualified yourself. You can't. That doesn't. That's not going to
Wait,
fit
what?
into.
What did you
Huh?
say?
No, I'm just kidding. Between these two games, you have to guess which one had the higher percentage
Oh.
of trophies, of platinum trophies on them PlayStation consoles over there.
Okay.
Which had the higher platinum percentage? Saw on the PS3 or Final Fantasy 15 on the PS4?
Saw PS3.
I'm going
There
with
was
the
a Saw
dumb
game?
one. Saw.
That game is bad.
Saw, probably because I had like 5 trophies.
Saw on PS3, 8% versus the 7% of Final Fantasy 15 on PS4.
But that's pretty close.
Sound
Pretty low.
Shapes on Vita or Spider-Man on PS4?
Yo, Sound Shapes on Vita. I'm going with the dumb name.
How do you
The dumb
Spider-Man.
names.
platinum that?
I'm going with the smaller dumb ones. Let's go.
Sound Shapes is not dumb. That's a good game.
Yeah.
I stand
Yeah,
corrected.
Spider-Man, probably.
Sound Shapes on Vita, 12.2%
Yes!
Oh, okay.
to Spider-Man's 8.7, which is not a hard. That's one of the rare things I platinum, and I don't make a case like to platinum things. I'm sorry, Ian and Damian, did you want to fight about that, or is that we gonna?
No.
move on? That seems-
I spoke out of turn. I didn't mean to say dumb. I'm sorry.
All right.
Sound Shapes, check it
I
out.
mean,
It's on,
like the
everything.
lesser known one, the one that people would
Sure.
like overlook is what I really.
I'm not
meant to
offended,
say.
Damian.
Yeah. No, I
Here's
did
a
use the
lesser-known
wrong word
Vita
there,
game.
though.
I've never heard of this Vita game. So there's Demon Souls on PS3 versus Smart As on Vita.
Smart as, let's go. Like smart as a 4th grader or whatever that show was.
What did you call me? I
Smart
guess.
as a 4th grader, 5th grader. What was that show?
Or is it like Australian, New Zealand slang where they say like,
Smart As.
"Oh, that unbeached as."
I just
I'm going with
remembered.
Whale,
Vita
it's
games,
like,
baby. Let's
unbeached
go
ass,
Vita.
bro.
Go Vita.
I have to jump in
Dedicated
here because I
fan
just
base.
remembered another one of the bad THQ Nordic ones. It was Red
This is not the
Faction.
game, blood.
How very human
Red
of you.
Faction remastered.
Right, right.
Oh yeah, that one was stupid.
Yep,
Okay,
Mars, 'cause it's
patrons,
Mars.
new game. Send us titles, goofy titles, and let us guess if they're real or not next time.
I swear we've done that before.
I probably have.
Don't get ahead of this podcast, Damiani. depending on our running time, we might have time for that because this won't take us very long. What do we
was
think?
it?
Demon Souls on PS3 or
Smart-
Smart As?
I said smart as.
I think
Demon
this one's a
Souls.
trick.
That's-
Demon Souls.
That's the smart answer. It's Smart As 4.2 on Vita. Demon Souls only 3.1. Smart As.
Damn it.
more
Demon Souls
people
too hard. Confirmed.
committed
This
to.
is-
But those
I
games
mean-
you haven't necessarily heard of, I don't know, it makes sense for me because it's like, yeah, they probably had less hoops. you
It's
had to jump through.
unpredictably predictable.
Oh yeah, because it's a percentage. It's yeah.
Right.
You're right.
Nier Automata on PS4 or Resistance Burning Skies on Vita.
I'm going Resistance Burning Skies.
Resistance.
Vita.
Resistance.
Resistance Burning Skies with 11.1 versus Nier Automata's 9.1 on PS4. Dead or Alive Extreme 3 Fortune on PS4 versus Bloodborne on PS4.
Dead or alive. Dead or
Bloodborne.
alive.
Bloodborne.
A lot of people platinum Bloodborne.
Sorry, Ian.
Damn
DOA
it, I platinum
7.8
Bloodborne?
to Bloodborne's 6%.
Just
Only
have to
6%
pick
of
the
players
least
play.
popular
Just have to pick the lesser known.
But think, how,
Yeah.
but think how special you are, Ian. That's a very
I thought more
The
people
elite.
platinum Bloodborne.
6%.
It's easy.
Well, according to Wisconsinite, who knows?
I grew up a Wisconsinite.
Gravity
Alas.
Rush on Vita or Rocket League on PS4. Gravity
How do you
Rush
Gravity
Platinum Rocket League.
Rush on
on
Vita.
PS4.
I'm going Rocket League. Those guys are fanatics.
let's do it.
I've got friends who've got like 1,000 hours in Rocket League.
Well, they're not getting platinums. You're terrible at this, Ian. That'd be Gravity
God
Rush on Vita with
dang it.
5.8% to
Vita means
Rocket
life.
League's 4.3%. All these numbers are so small.
It does.
Sound Shapes is the highest number I've seen on this list.
Yeah.
Finally,
it's a good game. It's go play it, everyone.
it's a good game. I love this was randomized. Thank you, Wisconsinite, before I got my hands on it, but I love that this wound up being the last one. PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale on Vita or PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale on PS3.
I'm going with Vita, please.
Vita.
Vita, please.
Vita wins. 3.5 to the paltry 2.2 on PS3.
Vita's
Group
making a comeback.
consensus, I think we aced that game. I got a lot wrong, but Damiani got every single one
I
right.
just kept picking Vita.
It
It
was
really was the least popular game. Like,
It didn't matter
every
what
time.
it didn't matter what order you put it in. Like
Once
look
you
at all,
crack
Pick the Vita.
statistics.
look at all the slower
Yeah.
ones. Yeah, Final Fantasy 15, Spider-Man, Demon Souls. Yeah, there was a trend, but that was a fun game. Thank you, Wisconsinite. Steven Santiago, I do this thing that when a game releases on my birthday, I have to buy it and finish it. It all started with Gravity Rush, and now I have to complete Xenoblade. Xenoblade,
Oh,
sorry.
wow.
I double
Happy
checked
birthday.
before I just read the VO. Xenoblade. According to Nintendo. With that in mind, I was wondering if any of you have made preset conditions that you met, that when met, you have to purchase a game. Something that you're like, I don't know whether it's good or not, I gotta do. I'd like to say open world, but there's a lot of open world games I haven't tried.
Ain't nobody got the time for that.
Nobody got time for that. Not me.
I mean, From Software is basically there at this point for me.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if I'd jump into the mech games.
Are they
Right.
making more of those right now? Elden Ring
you-
is the next big
Yeah, I don't
sauce.
think so.
Did you play Deracine or whatever that was? The VR game?
I didn't because I don't have PSVR. Makes me sick. Vita, Vive or Index don't make me sick, but PSVR does.
We should find some like old From Software games and just go back to them.
I actually watched part of a video on Echo Knight the other day, and that game looks amazing. I stopped watching it because I want to play it. Super early game. It looks really cool. What was the question?
Is there anything about a game that just guarantees you got to buy it? There's something
yeah.
something you
Other than
hear, some
pedigree,
preset
yeah.
conditions that are made where you're like, all right.
Well,
I mean,
it's not even
a
really about
mainline
the
Zelda
game, right? It was
Dontnod, you're not
about
gonna-
like it
Maybe that's
came out on a
pedigree.
birthday. It's an interesting take.
Yeah, like
I think
weird qualifiers like that. I can't think of any.
there are definitely like people who make games that'll always try their game. Like Jessica Curry retired, but like I would always check out her stuff, and like Miyazaki obviously, and you know, stuff like that. That's pretty much guarantee. But nothing like it came out on my birthday, so I have to punish myself by playing.
Yeah, it's always been things like, oh, Ni no Kuni announced Studio Ghibli doing the anime cutscenes for some of it. I'm like, well, buying that immediately, like just because Studio Ghibli attached to it, so that like that's done. But again, it's name stuff at that point.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, like this feels like almost bet conditions. Like, did you ever have a bet you lost and were forced to play a game? What were those crazy conditions?
Yeah. Yeah, whenever I lose a bet to one of the allies, I have to do stuff.
New Game
Yeah,
Plus
but-
is so sexy for me, man. Whenever something gets New Game Plus, I'm like, oh.
There are good New Game
what do I
Pluses and
get?
bad New
Yeah,
Game
sometimes
Plus.
you just get like the money and stuff, or
Yeah.
sometimes it's like it's hard, it's way harder, and you get nothing. I'm like, that's not. That doesn't
It's
sound
like
like fun.
great.
But yeah, if it's auto battling too, it's like go on.
You're such a mobile gamer.
Yeah.
Auto battle.
Let's play one more game because these games are great. We got 2 good games this week. Pretty tonic, not so subtle subtitles. Fighting games, especially anime-based ones, sometimes have outlandish names. My favorite example is Under Night In Birth EXE Late Control R. Oh man, somebody corrected me on that, and I'm sure I just butchered it again. But some have also crazy subtitles. I have prepared an assortment of such. The question for you is this an actual subtitle for a fighting game, or is it fake? Example.
Damiani, your dream came true.
The New
Yeah.
Challengers is the subtitle of Super Street Fighter 2. Hope that you have fun and a good laugh at some of those video game names. Enjoy. Stay safe and healthy. Love and respect, Matthias. Here we go. Dash version 2K2.
That's gotta be real.
Dash version 2K2?
Hmm.
Sure, I'll go with yeah.
2002.
So
yeah.
yeah.
Probably like an SNK game.
You guys got to pace yourselves. This is a long list. That is super fake.
Okay,
all right,
cool.
here we go.
I don't know a lot about SNK
Here we
games, so we're
go.
gonna be in this for a while.
Here we go.
We need Ben here.
Exceed Savior Full Force.
Yes, real.
Yes.
That's gotta be real.
Totally fake.
Oh.
This guy's good.
They're getting some good ones.
Pretty
in there.
tonic.
Exceed is definitely in some game titles.
Oh yeah.
Millionaire Fighting 2001.
Yes,
That's
King
real.
of Fighters.
It was King of Fighters SNK, right? It was Capcom
Okay,
versus
no.
SNK2.
Oh,
There was a
no.
version of it called Millionaire Fighting 2001.
oh, okay, cool. I didn't know that.
Lessons Learned.
Yeah,
yes,
that's gotta be.
I didn't
Rival
learn my
Schools or
lesson yet.
something.
Yes,
I'll say no.
rival schools. Yeah,
Blood Sniffed. It's fake.
didn't learn my lesson.
Fight for the Future.
Yes,
That's real.
that sounds
X-Men.
real.
That's an X-Men.
It's
That's an X-Men movie tagline.
Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. Fight for the
Oh,
Future.
the OG. Oh, jeez, man, I'm gonna get laughed at this. Laughed at it. Here.
Love Max 6 stars.
Real.
Wait, what?
Love Max 6 stars.
Yes.
I gotta keep going. Yeah, sure.
Arcana Heart 3. Love Max 6 stars with. Let me make sure I get the correct amount. I just want to be correct about this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 exclamation points.
Good.
Heroines Infinite Duel.
Yeah.
That sounds like that SNK game that came out on Switch.
I'm gonna say
but
no.
I don't think that was the full. So I'm gonna.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
Heroines
go
is
with,
in the
I'm gonna
title.
Go with no.
That is real. Nitro Blasters. There's a plus in there, so I don't know if it's Nitro Plus Blasters, Nitro Cross Blasters. Stun Gun Special.
Yes.
Stun Gun Special? Wait. That sounds like the name of that, not Senran Kagura, whatever. So I'm going to say no.
That's a pretty tonic special. That's fake. Actress, again, current code.
Please be real.
Please be Blaze Blue.
I'll say no.
Yes.
Melty Blood? I don't know.
Melty Blood. Okay. Yeah.
Melty Blood.
Actress, again,
names.
current code. AACC.
Versions. Holy shit.
Aqua Plus Dream Match.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't. It's hard to make something like that up. That's real. That's Aquapazza.
Well, I was gonna say no, so
Aquapazza.
I don't know what
that. Tension Max, Ignite the Fire.
Yes.
It sounds like a Bleach fighting game.
I would love. Yeah, I hope.
But I don't think that's the right title.
It's not real.
I was gonna say no because
wow.
Okay.
Tension Max.
You got a future in this!
Exclamation point!
Jeez.
Ignite the fire.
You got a job. This is a job.
Wouldn't that be wonderful if there was just one person that they call and he's
nightmare
like,
titles.
He thinks of it in the moment, like on the phone call. It just takes 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Stun gun special. Click.
Spring reverse.
I like
256. Oil special.
Mom comes in. You want a peanut butter sandwich? Don't disturb me, Mom. I'm thinking of fighting game names.
I like to imagine that what happens is that somebody has to call the person that it's supposed to title this, and they're on the phone, and they say what the title is, but the phone just breaks up. And so they only get a few of the words, and then that's what you end up with.
Control R?
Because they're always in their car phone. They're always using their car phone because they're very important.
Yes.
All right. 4 more of these. Fate of Two Worlds.
Oh,
Yes.
that's Marvel vs.
Real.
Capcom.
2. Marvel vs. Capcom.
3.
Nice.
2.
3.
Well, 3. Whatever.
There's
3.
Quiet, Ian. Go! Fight for me!
That's real.
What?
No.
Go!
Please
Fight for
no.
me.
Please
Fight for
no.
me.
Please no.
Nah, that's not real.
Okay,
Damn.
good. Thank you.
3 exclamation points in both those sentences for a total of 6. Umami Revolution.
Yo.
Real.
Yes.
It's probably a
Sure.
Food Network show, but
It's
it is
that
not a fighting
sushi
game.
chef show.
And finally, Ultimax Ultra Suplex Hold.
Yes.
Real.
Sure.
I've said real for all of
Is that
them.
Persona? Or I don't know.
Persona 4 Arena.
Yeah.
There you go.
What was that one?
Persona 4 Arena, P4A.
No, the subtitle.
Persona 4 Arena Ultimax Ultra Suplex Hold. Again,
the
pretty
Ultimax
Sonic.
is the only thing I was going off of. I didn't know anything else. So
That's the thing. It's like you could have mixed up names from some other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have no idea. I'm just guessing. Don't worry.
I did recognize a couple of those. I recognize Fate of Two Worlds, but all of those could be wrong. Who knows? But that was a really fun game. Thank you, Pretty Tonic. All right. Time for bets that you do not know
Do not know.
what they are. Next week's bet. The Outer Worlds launches tomorrow on Nintendo Switch. How long will the trailer be in the Nintendo Switch eShop? Keep in mind, sometimes there's no trailer. I figured there'll probably be a trailer. Let me just say the reason why I think there would be a trailer is because this is a port. This is a game where, like, the trailer exists, you know, and it is, you know, there is a big company publishing this game. And so it would seem to me to be something like that would be available. There were more trailers than not when I went through the eShop. But I only looked for that play button. I did not look at any of the TRTs, so I don't know what the average could be. I did not do any math on this. But I do think about trailers a lot. Okay, apologies for not telling you before, but are you ready?
Ready.
With your scoresies. Ian.
1 minute 12 seconds.
Okay. Damiani.
I said 59 seconds.
Nice, okay. Blood.
1 minute 14 seconds.
Oh,
Damn!
okay.
You guys boxed me in.
1 minute 40 seconds for me. Let me lock those in. Ugh. Thank you, Blood. I think I like where we wound up on that. A lot of people were saying that the sound effect for me locking it was off. It just, what happened was, like, the gear locked, but the actual lid didn't close until later on in the podcast. So
Got it.
it happens sometimes. It's
Takes time.
It's a whole new mechanism. It's
a
secure.
complex mechanism.
It's secure, but I'm still working it out. Last week's bet, which I get to check on right now. I got the page ready to go. Valorant launched on June 2nd. This time next week,
right.
aka right now, what will the difference be between the Twitch viewers of Valorant and Counter-Strike Global Offensive? I bet 15,000. Daniel Bloodworth bet 26,000. Ian Hank bet 53,000. Ben Moore bet 10,000. And Michael Huber, in a very Michael Huber bet 64,218. And I'm going to refresh the page now. Valorant is at 87.1, and they're right next to each other. Look at that. Counter-Strike is at 37.3. Valorant doing very well. So that would be an even 50 or close to 50. So that would be Ian Hank is going to take that bet at 53.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I did not expect
Huber's close.
that.
Yeah, Blood and I
Good
were way
job.
off. It jumped last week. It was bouncing all over the place. So yeah, who knows? But go Valorant. There we go. And bringing our scores. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I tell you the scores, I just want to read a post from Nick Gothic. Thank you very much. Every time on bets, I see that the jovial penguins aren't so jovial because they don't know how to do the penguin chittering. It breaks my heart. I think the way penguins vocalize is very beautiful, and they do it in rapid, short bursts. So if the allies want to make penguin noises, I recommend they practice this short burst pattern. Pretend like you have to chant ga 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 in a screeching tone, and you should be more or less get a respectable penguin sound. I'm just saying, I'm not saying this is what you do. Obviously, I'm not on the team. I'm just communicating.
Ga, ga, ga.
I'm just saying, don't get ahead
I
of
love
yourselves.
it. I love
Get ahead of
it.
yourselves. Bringing us to Jovial Penguins 2.
I'm listening to them right now to try and do this noise. Is this real? This is what they sound like?
Is this real? Yes.
Eagles, we've been lied to. Eagles don't sound like...
I can't make this
Are you
noise.
watching March of the Penguins? No, that's,
I'm
that's
watching,
Morgan Freeman. That's
I'm
not
watching
the way
penguin
penguins
sound, actual penguin sounds to try and emulate them, and this is like not natural.
It's a very
natural.
interesting
It's
So
not
choice.
human.
explain the instructions again so I can do this the fake way. Give me the fake way to do this.
Pretend like you have to chant ga 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 in a screeching tone, and you should more or less get a respectable penguin sound. But we're done. That was it. You had to. I mean, now you're just. All right, Blood. Astonished Scorpions 3. They're catching up.
That's
though.
not what scorpions do either. Just so we're clear.
It doesn't matter what they do or don't do. We have a sound. We're consistent. All of you are.
That's why I think our noise should be.
I gotta
it could
read
be
comments
worse.
about you,
My nose
okay?
could be gushing blood.
Right. I didn't read any comments about our Scorpions this week. That's all I'm saying. Let me tell you about patreon.com/easyallies. You can go there to support the Easy Allies if you would like to. If you go to patreon.com/easyallies, you're going to see a lot of stuff that you didn't hear about in this podcast. You're going to see a lot of the other stuff that we do. Of course, we have a YouTube channel. We have a Twitch channel. That is our name as well. But if you go to Patreon, you're probably going to learn the most about us. You're going to see a lot of posts preparing you for content that we are about to produce. And if you decide to be involved at various tiers that we have available, starting at $1, going all the way up to $250, we'll get to that in a second. Then you can choose to be involved in various shows, get stuff early, be a part of Love and Respect and Gaming Gladiators that we mentioned at the top, and help us do this, help us make this stuff happen. And we greatly appreciate everyone that has already done so, and everybody that is just listening to this podcast that's like, I've heard you do that pitch before. Not interested. Thank you for hanging around. Thank you for listening to Easy Allies. Those that top $250 tier is known as the shout out tier, and it is time to recognize. Ian, you're going first. I'm going after you. Damiani, you're going after me. Blood, you're going after Damiani.
So still doing the cadence thing.
Yeah,
we're
one
still
comment
doing
does
the
not
cadence
stop us
thing.
from doing things.
No, I
Oh,
was
see, they don't have
confused.
To, yeah, see, you don't have to. Now you said there's a comment, and now people are going to comment on the comment. People are going to ask
No,
what
it's
the
fine.
comment was. They're going to go back.
They liked it.
I'm going to hear about it. Shout
like
out.
it.
I like it a lot.
I like
I
it a
love
lot. Keep doing it.
Shout out to Blue, Caleb Toki Crawford, El Fanis, Greg the Dark Knight Kettering, and Jesse Blue.
Shout
out.
out.
Shout out.
Shout out.
See?
Yeah.
Don't we feel good?
It's jolly. It's jolly. I will not
mean,
hear
it's
I will
jolly.
not hear anything otherwise. You
I didn't say anything otherwise. Ian Hank, you're good at winning bets. You won this week's bet. And as such, you get to promote any Easy Allies video you'd like to promote. You get the final word on anything you've disagreed with, want to reiterate, or just popped into your head. And you get to sign off with your trademark sign off. You talk about Twitter or anything, and I'm going to lose it.
I know, you'll go ballistic. I don't know, promoting an Easy Allies video, I can't think of one. It doesn't seem I don't know.
Fair.
I was watching 13th on Netflix earlier today, and it's very good. Watch that. Final word, Black Lives Matter. Good night and good game. So, Blood, what you're saying is there's no way of knowing where they're going without knowing the way.